This video is for you if you want to learn a little bit more about what grieving looks like. What kind of process is it? What do I expect? If you, for example, support a person who is newly bereaved, it's a good idea to be a little bit informed. First, grief is not a state. Grief is a process. Grief is something that is, to begin with at least, a huge roller coaster journey for most of us, because it has intense emotions, intense behaviors at times, and we are not used to that. So expecting the unexpected, I think, is a good tagline for grief, and being respectful with that. At the beginning, it shows deep signs of anguish and despair. Somebody has died and that person is not in my life anymore. There's a huge gap, a hole for many people, and that needs to be processed. The normal functioning of life might be upside down for a while. Personal hygiene or sleep is not important. The house maybe gets messy. The food routine gets out of whack. Loss of appetite, sleeplessness, body aches, getting a cold. All these might be physical symptoms of grieving. And emotionally, it goes up and down. One moment, deep despair. The next moment, a bit more calm. It's unpredictable at times. Slowly but surely, and there's no time stamp on that, grief turns more into, for most people, it turns more into a wave form. That means I get reminded because something triggers me of the deceased person, and a wave rolls over me, and I might cry and feel very emotional, and then it subsides. And slowly but surely, the grieving person might be able to pick up the routines again and going grocery shopping, and at some stage going back to work, still heavy-hearted, still exhausted. It is quite a taxing journey. And so slowly but surely, habits, routines are going to be picked up. And important is to know that grief is also not only sadness. Sometimes we might feel happy that we had that person in our lives. We might feel joy having memories of that person. We might laugh, and then people often feel ashamed because I shouldn't be laughing, I'm grieving. No, if you feel happy, you laugh. And if you support somebody who is in that state, don't judge that. I volunteered in a hospice, in a children's hospice, and people laughed around the lunch table because they shared story about their children. And that was such a beautiful way of being together and remembering and having a good time whilst being deeply sad at the same time. Also, people are not used to this whole process, so everybody is finding their way through that, and be aware of that. Grieving is not about, and that I find really important to notice, about separating. You will not separate from the person you love, because love is beyond dying. Love is something you feel in your heart for that person for the rest of your life, most likely. So it is finding a new relationship with the deceased person, talking to the person in your mind, talking or feeling the person around with items that are still in the house, being reminded of that person, and then having a fond memory. There is still a relationship going on, and that might be consoling for a grieving person as well. Last but not least, grieving is never finished. Often we say, oh, there's a line, and after a year I should be over it. No, because grieving is something that slowly gets integrated into the life that is now going to be built, and that life is different because a person is missing. However, grieving people, bereaved people, find a new ways to build up their life, to pick up the routines, and to integrate that loss into what they do as they move forward. Not forgetting the person, keeping still the place open, and moving on and finding a new way. And last but not least, grief shows up differently for everyone. There might be a person who is really displaying it, and you see the person cry and you see the suffering in their facial expressions and everything. And then there might be people who have seemingly hold it all together and are just moving through it just fine. And that is also okay, because we have different personalities, we have different upbringings, we deal with it in separate ways. So for people supporting bereaved people, expect the unexpected, go along for the journey, keep your judgments at bay, because you might handle it differently than they do, and that is okay. You are there to support and help and not direct. I think that's a good way to keep in mind. Let them lead the way. You're there to help them along. I hope that helped. It gave you a bit more background information on that. And keep your heart open and let it move through bit by bit. Thank you for watching. Bye.